But thank you for having me back, and I hope you've all kept safe and well. I mean, unprecedented times. Actually, it's been rather good for wildlife, the lockdown. That's one positive aspect because, of course, that was called just at the start of the breeding season for just about everything. And all the reports I'm getting back at the moment is the reproduction in this country of most of the wildlife has been extremely good. So, however, I can't believe it's 3 years ago since I've been here last. And yeah, hasn't things changed? But we're going to be positive tonight. We're not going to talk about the C word, okay? Right, okay. Now, you're not going to sit there all quiet, believe you me. Not that you are anyway, so I believe. But anyway, it's a bit of a shame because I've actually got a new book being published and it's due at the publishers. We've been waiting, hoping it'll come in this week, but it hasn't. So this is my new book, Wildlife Wanderings. I've had some fantastic help on this in the background. Dr. Jane Goodall, she's been extremely good to me, helping me on it. Bill Waddy and various other people. I'm not name dropping here, I thought, of course. and actually lockdown played into my hands because I had the sponsorship money come through in the first week of lockdown and signed the contract with the publishers. And there's been intensive work over the 3 months with the designer, but because they wasn't doing any other work, they really did concentrate on my book. And it was Book of the Month in the Hampshire Life magazine this month. And it's just got 4-page review in the Dorset magazine, which has just come out. And I'm getting good ratings all over the place, so I'm very, very lucky. I have got a copy here for you to look at, and I am taking prepaid orders later. So I'll get that in quick. Okay? But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the talk. People say to me, what gear do you use? Very little, actually. It's as pointless having a load of gear you don't use. Sorry, you can't see there, can you? Okay? You're not missing much, don't worry. I use 1DX cameras. There's a couple of small lenses there. I use what's called converters. I'm not going to get technical with you, okay? That's one of my best bits of kit that I use, a hide. I spend weeks, if not months in there. I've nearly got a kitchen in there, kitchen sink. That's my main camera I actually use that you can see to the left there, which is a 500 lens, a long lens, because most of my subjects are normally some distance away. So I need to be able to magnify it in very close. That was actually a freezing cold day about 3 years ago. And while I was sat there I wanted to photograph hares in snow. And I was on top of a hill on the Cranbourne Chase. It was -5 anyway. With the wind chill, it was dropping down below -12. And after about 3 hours, I was there shaking. I could not sit still, but I got this hare running across the snow towards me. I didn't move very quick. When I got there, I was so stiff. I had a de-thaw before I got back to the car, but it was worth it. That's the whole thing about my work. You've got to put in the time to get the luck. If you don't put the time in, you know, you've got to make your own luck really doing this. I'm a bit lost actually. I just concluded something. I can't see the preview to my next photograph. Okay, I'm going to have to live with this. I may get a bit lost because normally using my own laptop, I've got the preview to the next photograph. So please bear with me on that one. Okay, this saves me a huge amount of time. Do you know what it is? It's a trail camera. Okay, so if I got an idea there's some animal around or I want to check something out, I leave one of these on site. And it confirms what there is or what isn't there. And last year I was working closely with a certain person to try and capture, wait for it, I'll step back. Now anybody have idea what those are? Go on. Pine martens, that's it, you've got it. In Mid Wales. Sorry? Okay. You get the pine martens again then here. In fact, what happened here, myself and another guy tempted these pine martens in. And believe it or not, their favourite food is boiled eggs and strawberry jam. So between us, it's very, very remote, this particular location. Between us, we were putting food out every night. In the end, we had these two coming in every night. And they're nocturnal, so I had to work overnight. So I put 1 week to one side where I'd stay overnight. And it's in October. This was a year ago. So I set up on the Sunday night, 4:30, got to about 10:30, drip, drip, drip on my hide. And of course, all my cameras are outside and all the flashes are outside. And it poured down. It rained for the whole week. And I never got them. And after the 1 week I was away, and after that period of time, they'd split up and moved on. So all that work went out the window overnight, basically. But that's the nature of my work, you see.
Where were you filming?
This is in Mid Wales, in the Cambrian Mountains. Yeah. Near a place called Limbrian. There's a big reservoir up there. Okay, a little quiz. I will stand back a bit here, give you a chance. Oops. Okay, it's who do the eyes belong to? Okay, we'll go separately on this. You get the idea. I tell you, you're not going to sit there quietly, didn't I? Okay. Now, who do you think those eyes belong to? Come on, ideas. Rabbit? No. Fox? So, maybe in her younger days. Okay, somebody did shout out the right answer. Fox. Fox. And this one actually lives in Yvonne's garden here in Poole, a town fox. Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Rabbit.
Hare, rabbit. Come on. Sorry?
A frog.
Frog. No, not a frog. It's a hairy frog. Okay, it was too easy, this one. And here he is here. This is my #1 selling photograph. It's a young leveret. It was early in the morning in July. I was walking across the downland to photograph some barn owls, and he hopped out of the long grass that was heavy in dew, hence the reason he's soaking wet. And if you look above his eye, you see like a sticky wicket stuck there. And he ran down and sat in front of me. Being young, you see, not worried. So I sunk to my knees and took some photographs. And then he actually ran down and sat beside me for a while before he went on. But that's the beauty of young hares. You'll see some more that I've taken. But that is my #1 selling photograph by a long way. Just because he's a character. Okay. Now this one, all I will say is a nasty bit of work. It will bite. Weasel. Okay. Vermin. Well.
Stoat.
Yes. Stoat. Adder. Mink. Okay. Who said stoat? Okay. I go off some people, you know. You're being quite kind to me, actually. Right. Owl? No, it's not an owl. Not a cat. You're going down the right lines. Yeah. Sorry? No, but you're not far off. Do you give up? Sparrowhawk. Okay. Here's another one. This one's local to the area. No. No. Pig. You're quite good here, actually. New Forest piggy. Do you know, some places I go to, I was travelling all over the country, haven't got a clue on any of these. Okay.
That's a dog.
Not a pony, no. Horse, pony, no. It's got 4 legs, I'll give you that. There we go. One of the stags in the New Forest. In fact, it's the peak of the deer rut now. Anybody that's interested. Now, this one's a little bit more unusual. They are found throughout the UK now. They've been reintroduced in places. Beaver, muntjac, otter, beaver. Beaver. Has anybody seen a beaver? No, there we go. Okay, they are around and about. You know, they're getting more common.
Any in this area?
Not that I know of. Somebody was telling me that Otterton down in Devon, Budleigh Salterton, if you walk the river Otter there, you're nearly guaranteed to see them. But they are getting more widespread. It'll take time. And all this story about them taking down huge acres of trees is a load of rubbish. That won't happen. They just manage the riverbank, basically, you know, and they allow then light into the river that lets marine growth. You know, they are very good. And also in flood areas, they don't build huge, great dams. That's the American beavers, you know, bigger and better than anybody else. You know, they do build dams, and it holds back the flood water. Where a lot of the rivers have been straightened out, it actually holds back. So if there's torrential downpour, the river doesn't come flying down the valley and do so much flooding. It actually holds it back to a degree. No, not a chicken. Yeah, a chicken of a bad night, yeah. It's a bird.
Turkey?
Not a turkey. You're thinking about Christmas already.
No.
No? Do you give up? It's a tawny chick. A tawny chick. And the story behind this, actually, a friend of mine in Wales, I half live in Wales, half live down here. He's got an upside down house where he lives upstairs with a veranda. He put an owl box outside the veranda and they used it straight away. And he phoned me one day, he said, I think you better come down, Dave. I've got something lined up. And all around this garden in the bushes was 3 chicks just sat there looking at you. That's the beauty of my game. You get times like this. Right. See, that's what my work is all about, you see. It's got to have that or that wow factor for people to buy it. And it's not... You can take a photograph, we'll go on to this later on, actually. You can take a photograph of a certain bird, for instance, but just sat there, it's not interesting. You've got to try and bring something else into the photograph. But I've got an example of this later on, what I mean. And this actually was on the front cover of my last book. Has anybody seen barn owls hunting? They float, don't they? They don't really fly, they float, barn owls. They're so light, and they'll hover. If they see something in the grass, and this grass is about 5 inches long, they'll just dive straight down in. And if lucky, they come out with a voe. And this particular next photograph, it was coming out the grass, because what actually happened, it dived in, and I could see the wingtips, so you know it's going to come out sooner or later. And my camera takes 12 frames a second. In other words, 12 photographs a second, so I can get all the action as it comes out. So I can take out what photograph I want to use. But so it's anticipation. It's reading what the animal's going to do. And this is the oldest photograph you're going to see here, but it's one of these proverbial sells well because it's got the R factor. I mean, I got loads of photographs of all the barn owls with the eyes open, but what made this one different was the one on the end with the eye closed. That's what made it. And it's framed by the brickwork. This is local. On the marshes here, short-eared owl. Yeah, has anybody seen short-eared owls down there? No, very lucky. This was about 2:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, short-eared owls will hunt during the day. Here's another local. The spoonbills. Again, I took this down here. But actually, Poole Harbour is one of the best places in the UK to see spoonbills. There's about 45 down there. Yeah. Beautiful birds. You can't really miss them, can you? Who's seen them down there? Yeah. Yeah, and you can see how they use their beak. They put it in the mud and they're going backwards and forwards, sifting out food. And I feel these, as those of you that can remember the egret about 40 years ago, you hardly saw an egret, did you? Now there's egrets everywhere. And I think the spoonbills may go the same way. No doubts about it. The climate change doesn't suit some species, but other species it is. And I think it's suiting these. There we go. And these were by one of the embankments while I was walking along, just a few feet away. That's the difference between where I live in Wales and down here. All wildlife is to a degree is used to humans. In Wales, they don't ever see anybody, and they're gone. You know, an otter, if they hear a click of my camera in Wales, they're gone. Down here, if I see an otter, they normally just look at you, carry on. Here's an egret. And for this one, you see, I was sat in my hide waiting for kingfishers when he rocked up. This is on the River Stour at Christchurch. And he just fished off the rocks in front of me. So I never know what I'm going to get. I go out to photograph one subject and very often get something else. Please don't sit there quietly. If you've got any questions, just throw them at me, okay? Yeah, sure.
That particular photograph, have you deliberately clipped the end of the wings, or is it just that's how it works?
That's how that one worked. Yeah, that's how that one worked. He was so close to me, I didn't have much choice, really. There we go, a half factor again. This is down here again on the Soap Marshes. Now, can anybody tell me, is that a female or male?
It's a male.
It's a male. Okay, hands up, who I can see. Who thinks it's a male? Who thinks it's a female? Okay, shall I tell you the giveaway? The lower beak is red. That's the difference. Think of lipstick. Red beak, female. Okay? The male is all black. Okay? Who's seen two kingfishers? You see this for two different reasons. One, when they're mating, obviously, which is the case here. The female, which is on the right-hand side, is constantly being given fish by her mate, who then obviously mates with her, okay? And then the second time, obviously when there's young, and they're feeding the young. If you notice, she's taking the fish head first. Why is this?
Stickleback?
No, but there's a reason why she's taking the fish head first. If it went tail first, she would choke, because all the scales open up. Okay? Okay, who's seen two kingfishers? One or two of you? This one actually is in Mid Wales. The first photograph was here on the marshes. This one Mid Wales. The next one you're going to see is on the River Stour, which is okay, three young ones. And you can tell they're young because their feet are black. As they mature, their feet turn orangey red. Okay? Again, I couldn't predict this. You know, I was sat in my hide, one come in, then a second one, and then a third one, and then a fourth one. And can you see the adult's got the orangey red feet? Just come in for a split second, and I got the photograph. Besides finishing off my book, that's how I spent lockdown, running around after, what is it? Cuckoo. Cuckoo, yeah. And at one point where I live up there, I actually had 4 cuckoos. They're very territorial, they're mainly seeing each other off. But very hard to get close to, they're very, very wary. And I don't know whether you know this, they only come over to mate, basically lay their eggs, and they go back to Africa. And the only time they cuckoo is when they're in this country. Yeah, they don't cuckoo in Africa, they only cuckoo in this country. Now you tell me the reason behind that.
We see a lot down here, but some people say they're rare.
Yeah, that's right. That's Winston Churchill. Spotted woodpecker. And the female just gave him this huge, great grub. And that was the other thing I photographed. Lucky enough, the woodpecker nest was about 6 foot off the ground. And I actually can go on, I live right on the edge of the Senny Bridge Army Ranges, if anybody knows them, and I've got access onto some of the ranges. And they didn't actually do any practice on the ranges for the 2 months of lockdown, but then they did. And they come along one day while I was sat there, what are you photographing? And I always find the soldiers are quite intrigued on what I am actually up to. And I thought, oh, there I see the hoe there. And they're going, wow. And I have had some funny things happen there because I had a heavy knocking at the door one day at home. Nearly beat the door down on, who on earth is that? Opened up the door and there was a soldier all blacked out, geared out. And the Land Rover parked outside the door and I never heard him. And he said, he said, I've got a problem. Can you come have a look? I went, what on earth's going on? I went round to the back and I wish I took a photograph. There's 4 soldiers sat in the back, all blacked out, geared up with their guns, and one of them was cuddling a little lamb. And they said, we found this little lamb, it's not very well, what should we do with it? You know, it was such a contrast, these guys all geared up with their guns, cuddling this little lamb. Kestrel. Again, you know, I've got to read wildlife. I've worked with it such a long time. Kestrels will always hunt into the wind. In any bird of prey will hunt into the wind because they can hover using the wind. And I was actually going out to Portland, or coming back from Portland across Chesil Beach, and I saw it working the beach. So I parked down, and lucky enough, the wind was behind me, so I knew he would come up to me. And sure enough, he came up and hovered beside me. So you've got to read nature. It's not always predictable, believe you me. And this is another one. I don't know when anybody's aware of this, but on the cliffs, Bournemouth and Poole, somebody introduced war lizards some years ago, about 40 years ago, and they've multiplied and they've driven out the native lizards. But if you can look closely, this kestrel's got a lizard there. Yeah. That's it. That's all you can see. It's the tail. Okay, what bird is this? You got them here again? No, not a reed. No. No, not a reed warbler. Bearded tit. You've got it. Bearded tit. You've got them here, but a stronghold for them is Radipo Lake, right in the middle of Weymouth. Lovely little birds. Lovely little birds. There's another one. Never walk the same afterwards.
Are they a true tit?
Yeah, yeah. You know what I was referring about a photograph making it look interesting? You know what this is, do you? No? It's a stork. It's a stork. And this is part of a reintroduction program last year down in Surrey. And some of them spread, some of them come this way. And I was tipped off about this one in a field by the National Trust last year, and I went to photograph it. How boring is a black and white bird? You know? It doesn't do anything for you, does it? But I had this luck. See, that's the difference. You've got a black and white horse and a black and white bird. It just makes it that more interesting, you see. Okay. Now, what am I supposed to be? Don't be rude. Okay, I'm supposed to be a bird. What type of bird?
A crane.
No. There's a good guess, though.
Heron.
No. No.
A crane.
No. You're very quiet at this end. Absolutely lost for words, are you? Yeah. Okay, I'll show you the bird in question and see if you know what it is. Okay. I couldn't go on to site because they're worried about these birds associating themselves with humans. I must admit, I would have been convinced if one of them had chased me and tried mating with me, but that did not happen. Okay, so here's the bird in question.
It's a bustard.
It's a great bustard on Salisbury Plain. You can't go onto Salisbury Plain to see them. You've got to be taken in as part of it because it's on MOD land. This was taken during May when they do their lek, their display. And it's spectacular, and they're big birds. They're about that high. They are big, big birds. But they are coming off the plane. And people see them down in Dorset. Pretty regular now. But mainly during the winter they come off.
When did they arrive?
They were reintroduced. Yeah. There's a part, and they're breeding like mad. And they don't know how many there are actually now because of course, they've spread onto MOD land where they can't go to record them. But they are breeding well. This is a frontal view. If you look at the top, there's the beak sticking through. Okay? And that's what they look like normally. Big old birds. In fact, the guy that took me in said, I'll put some feed out. Or one of them actually attacked him for the feed. He had to come out quicker than what you went in, put it that way.
Where do you find lots of them?
Well, as I said, Salisbury Plain.
Yeah, I know, but what country would they?
You get them in Germany and places like that?
Do they fly?
Yes. Yes, they do fly. You can't miss them if you see one. They're so big.
What do they feed on?
Well, they give them seed. They're picking up seed and stuff like that. Okay, this is an old rotten log. Okay? Any suggestions what may live in there? Yes?
Maybe one.
Well, you most probably do get worms in there, but any more ideas?
Scarab beetles?
I expect you get yeah, there's a... Okay, shall I show you? Should I warn you, is there anybody here that don't like snakes? Look away now, okay? Adders, okay? The one that is not striking out at me is actually yawning. That's the male curled up, and there's the female, the brown one underneath, okay? I work on an adder bank down near Wareham where there is literally dozens of them. And I've had them literally around my feet. And they will not attack you unless, A, you're very, very unlucky, but B, they think they're going to be hurt. Obviously, if a dog goes in, they'll bite a dog. And I know of a girl that got bit last year because she picked up a hay bale for a horse, and there was an adder in the hay bale, which is obvious, you know, but ordinarily, they'll slither away and hide because once they've released their venom, they're defensive for so many hours. But they can also give you a dry bite where they bite you but they don't release the venom as well. But yeah, you know, they're nothing to be scared of. Just be cautious, give them distance, that's all it is.
And they choose to give it right?
Yeah, they'll choose it. Yeah, that's right. Because as I said, once they've released the venom, they are defenseless. Here are the two again. The grey one, that's his new coat for mating, you see. It's nice and grey. As the year goes on, he turns a darker colour.
That's the female behind.
That's yeah, the female's the brown one. Again, in the New Forest, this is going on at this moment in time. The deer rat. White buck and the ordinary one. Has anybody seen the deer rat? You have, good. Oh, you did. It's very quick, very vicious. They can actually hurt. They can, in rare occasions, kill each other. But yeah, fantastic thing to see. These two actually fought for about 20 minutes in front of me. And they don't fight continuous because of the effort. They'll fight maybe for 2 minutes, for instance, and then they'll rest. And they'll either rest, they'll break away and look at each other. They won't turn away, because if they turn away, that's a sign of weakness. Or they'll stay locked up looking at each other and then go on again. And they did that for about 20 minutes. And normally, the winner chases away the loser. But in this case, they broke off and they just walked down the track side by side like two old mates. Quite unusual. But this is my work. You see, I've got to catch the action. You've got to look at the photograph and see the action. I mean, I've spent year after year after year, haven't I, going out there and in the New Forest, and I've only got a few photographs I consider good enough to show or sell. And that was 2 years ago. Last day of the rut, the sun was coming up, and he's framed by the trees again, you see. Right. I've done a lot of work with Red Squirrel Trust in North Wales in the past. Can you see the difference between the two of them? The tuffets. Okay. They've only got the tuffets during the winter. Their winter coat. The one on the left is summer coat. They lose their tuffets. Okay. Of course, you got them on the Isle of Wight here. We won't ever get them, say, back in the New Forest because of the greys. A lot of people think the greys physically attack the reds. They don't. It's the disease that the greys carry that kills the reds. I've actually worked with the squirrels, greys and reds together, and they interact the same. They actually interact with one another. They don't mate with one another, thank goodness, but they interact, and that is the problem. So in North Wales, they cleared Anglesey of all the greys and reintroduced the reds, and that is all reds on Anglesey. And a few years ago, they started crossing on to mainland Wales. And what they're actually doing, they're using Snowdonia as the buffer point, and they've cleared the greys up to the foothills of Snowdonia, and the reds are spreading like mad. But only last week, a case of the virus was picked up in a dead squirrel, red squirrel in Bangor. So there's a problem up there now. It's the real bad news. That was only last week that's confirmed.
How do they achieve the clearance of the greys?
Well, I hate to say it, they trap them.
Do they?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
I thought it was the greys ate the red squirrel's food.
No. Well, the greys are more prevalent in that way, feeding, and they have more young than the reds. That is another problem. And this is another reason behind them reintroducing pine martens in some places, because there's a theory that the pine martens kills and eats the greys. I don't know whether it's the fact that the reds are substantially smaller, they're not meaty enough, but that's the theory behind it. I saw a photograph again last week of a pine marten with a grey squirrel. So that's why you're seeing in some places they're reintroducing pine martens in North Wales because of this reason. The publishers like that, that's the front cover to the book, as you've seen. And that was Brownsea Island. Lucky enough, I do a lot of work with the National Trust, and it's people like that, you know, that are very good to me, and they tip me off and invite me in. Right, another clue there. If you say that Earth, total devastation, it's been wrecked, Everything about it's been wrecked. Not pigs. Not badgers. Any ideas? No?
Wild badgers.
You've got it. Wild boar. There we go. If you go to the Forest of Dean, anybody been up there? You can tell where the wild boar's been because they just uproot everything going. Totally. And they call these humbugs, nickname the young ones humbugs. You see why? The stripes. Absolutely. Okay, we've got odd shoes and a boxing glove. The animal in question didn't put them on the fence. What it was, the particular owner of this property kept finding all these things in their garden and put them on their front fence so people could claim them back. But who do you think stole them in the first place? Foxes? Any other ideas? No, have to be a big bird, but you got it right, foxes. And this family of foxes kept coming back every night with shoes. And I suppose being hot weather, you see people left their shoes outside. I don't know about the boxing glove, mind you. Again, people love this photograph because it's got that warm feeling about it, you see. I never sell photographs of, say, otters because they're grey and the water's normally grey. It's dull, you see. People don't want something dull in the house. They want something like this, bright. Something to cheer you up. Yeah, that's right. Again, you see, I'm getting you quite well trained at this, aren't I? But that's it, the R factor. This is the last subject, which is, I have to admit, my favourite subject, hares. I mean, they are such characters. Anybody seen the hare boxing? Very fast and furious, but they're beautiful creatures. When you see them in detail up close, and you'll see some in a minute. And to be honest with you, the boxing is so fast, I can't actually see their movements till I get home and open up the photographs at home. And then you get some that don't go much for the cameraman at all. You'll see that in a minute. But I've got a technique now which has taken me years to develop where I can get up within feet of a hare. But it depends on the time of year and what the hare is and what the hare's doing. Again, it's years of watching a subject and trying to understand it allows me to go in really close sometimes. And I was about 8 foot away from this hare. Just led there and looked at me. And you see the details in the facial markings, the eyes. And this is what people expect from me now, you see. In fact, funny enough, I had a meeting with the publishers the other day and the chairman said to me, he said, I think we're going to want another book off you quite quickly. We're going to push you for that. I said, well, you can push me as much as you want, but you won't get it because time it takes me to get these photographs. You know, 4 years went into this book, for instance, and that's intensive work. You know, that's the time it takes me to get these photographs. And this last year really has been a waste of time for obvious reasons. So I'm saying to him, my next book will be 4 or 5 years' time because I need to put the effort in.
Can't you use the old photographs? Recycle.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's it. There is a giveaway that because the gear is improving, the resolution's improving. If you see the difference between this book and my last book, you can see the difference. People are looking at it and saying, this is another step up. It's because you've got to get the quality, you see. And this hare, he showed his feelings towards me, you see. Stuck his tongue out. And they'll do that. They'll sit there licking their chops, just licking. And if you're lucky, you get a photograph of it. And this is the very latest photograph I got of a hare. This photograph I call a bad hair day. And this was I'm calling a good hair day. But you can really see the lovely fur down the back of its neck and the facial markings. Okay, and that is the last one, which brings me on to the book. Okay. Yeah. I'll take questions.